Alright. Let's get rid of you. And then where is that one hiding? There you are. Share. Copy. Just getting all set up, and then I'll be over at the table. Hello, hello. We'll pop it in. There we go. Alright, I think we're ready to roll. Good. Ah, there we go. Happy, what is it today? Wednesday? Today is the Wednesday, right? Odin's Day. Woden's Day. Right? Happy Woden's Day. And for our Lord and Savior Odin, the Allfather. Right. Gives a little more light for myself. There we go. Let's see if that's jiggling up. Alright, that's good. Decrease the surplus unintended lines a little bit here first. And we got some cleanup to do on this panel. We got to get this dog a bath. He's extra itchy. I think it's from crawling around under the porch. Things to do. Sneak around under there. Feels very clever and, sneaky, investigative as a dog. Checking things out, if you will. Oh wait, I think I need to plug in. Let's see. It says it's getting stuff that's interesting. Well, it's probably coming from the other computer over there, right? Is that where it's coming from? I think so, yeah. Alright, well, that's okay then. As long as the audio is being transmitted, I think we're okay. You okay down there, Bosch? Right. And as usual, while I'm working here, let me know if there's any questions. I don't mind talking while working. Just know that people kind of come and go, so So and nice and visible. So get that other finger. So anyway, yeah, don't hesitate to jump in and suggest topics. Mostly just kind of come in here, fixing things up that I broke, and getting some bonus details in here. I want to make sure this guy looks like he is apathetic. Careful, doesn't look like he's smiling, right? But you wouldn't be smiling if you were surrounded by some predatory creatures that have just ripped your arm off and were about to eat your own friends, and you're holding the trigger device for all the explosives that they've been planting. And hopefully trigger it in enough time to that they can get out, even if you won't. Good evening. So, but hopefully they'll, many of them as they can will get out, even if this one isn't going to make it. Where did my dog go? I guess he went to bed. He had a no good, very bad day yesterday, so, you know. Good evening. Right. That fix that hand up. Read a little more clearly. That's arm. Good evening, good evening. Go. Let's see. What am I working on? This is extension. I was working on a kind of visual development project for a while, kind of as a portfolio refresh, skills update thing. So some 3D stuff, mess around with some of the other 2D painting programs I hadn't used very much, like Clip Studio. And then as I was working on those, because I kind of like to build my portfolio projects around like a singular idea, if I can. Started developing kind of stories based off of that. So it got me thinking, hey, I've been teaching and kind of this cinematic storytelling approach, and I love comics. So I thought, hey, maybe I should take those stories and kind of work them together in a way that could be a comic book. So I've started a handful of pages earlier in the year, well, this summer, inked them, and then I've been going back and kind of expanding on that. So working on want to have enough pages that I can pull together a handful as a pitch project, whether it gets sent off to a publisher or like a crowdfunder type situation. So Bramble is the name of it, or the kind of the working title, and that's the name of this world that these people are on. You really can't tell from these images, but the idea behind it is there's humanity sent out this kind of generational colony ship to go settle on this habitable planet they discovered. And upon arrival, they ran into some problems, which is why it's like this corridor you're seeing is in the condition it's in. It's all messed up and busted up. Hello, Carlos, over on Instagram. But basically, this story is set about 80 years after the initial landing, forced landing. That they all basically had no choice but to immediately land on arrival. Where the planet itself kind of looks like a giant tangle of plants. And scattered around it, they found, beyond, of course, dangerous alien predators, like these guys, is evidence of a past civilization, but there's no like biological remains, there's no sense of what they did, but there's these kind of giant, what are called totems, and they're kind of these structures that stick out of the ground or are embedded somewhat in it over time. And then, of course, the planet landscape is very strange. It's kind of these, again, giant tangle of plants. There's like giant branches reaching up into the sky at different elevations, and it's kind of gets tighter as it goes deeper. I've done some loose sketches of the planet, but they don't really describe what I'm planning on doing with it just yet. But I was initially working on a different story, and I thought it would might be a good place to start to go further back a little bit to this part of the story. Yeah, probably just like your backyard. I don't know, maybe. So anyway, this is kind of a flashback, and the main character, which I guess you can't see in that view. I'll move this over just a little bit so you can see it up above. This guy right here is yelling. So it's kind of a flashback to something that happened when he was younger. And the fellow I need to fix the drawing up a bit right here is his father. So yeah, should definitely be drawing Carlos. Should be the default activity if you like art stuff is drawing. And this particular incident. So So they're part of a group that went to go check out one of the missing colony ships to see if there's anything to bring back from it. And there's a number of things that happened on that ship, but this is kind of their exit. And from the ship. And so this guy's got problems. You know, he ripped his arm off, and he's got a detonator for these bombs that they've been planting on their exit out to escape from these guys here. They caught the guy who's got the detonator, so that's a problem, I think. Well, this is, I started this set up, actually I started this a few weeks ago. I had to take a week off. I was working on some other project stuff for a couple weeks. Oh, okay. Sadly, no hablo español, Carlos. But I did some roughs for this sequence. It's 8 pages. So this is what I'm starting. I think this page right here is probably the most challenging because it's got, especially this upper panel I had here before. It's like all these faces on it, all these figures. I spent like a couple hours taking pictures of myself, which is always awkward. But these are some rough pages, and then these is like comic pages I made for myself that show double page spreads. But so there's the initial explosion. They're running. It takes out a few of them. They get clear at the door. There's the father and son running off together. But it wasn't the final explosion. There's the big kaboom right there on the bottom. And then they're running from it, and some of the other guys who are still alive get taken out. And then here's the father with his son, so the dying father is saying, "Promise me." And he's making him swear to keep a secret from this expedition. But we don't know what it is yet. And then you kind of see him get up, and there's him, making a pyre to burn away all the dead bodies before he takes off. And then come back to the current moment, and he's on this solitary trip through one of the artifacts left behind by the aliens that originally inhabited the planet. So when does Garfield show up? I don't know. I'll have to contact Jim Davis and see if I can still get those licenses. Him and I were hanging out last week, and so he hadn't decided yet. Or maybe not. But that's kind of the overall story. So I've been mostly focusing on this week. The top panel is a lot of work, just because there's a lot of detail and perspective and everything in it. Let's see up here, but this is what I've been working on. I started this panel yesterday. There's some things I need to fix. Like, I'm not entirely happy with this guy's drawing right here, but I thought I'd start over on this side, cleaning up the drawing. I think the reference I shot of myself wasn't as good as I would like it to be. Ink an entire page, but the inking shouldn't take that long compared to the penciling. The penciling takes longer. Because I'm trying to, penciling is for where I'm trying to figure out how everything's supposed to fit. And so this actually is harder because I have to figure out how everything works. And then I'll scan all this in, print out probably blue line, maybe red line. I kind of like to do the red line thing. And that shouldn't take quite as long as the penciling here. But I'd like to get all the pages done before I ink it. So my guess would be about a day for the inking. Because part of doing this project too is I've never really done comics before, so I still do. Actually, I was at the comic shop today, picked up a few things, but um, but um, but part of that I don't know exactly how long it takes me. So part of it is I haven't done comics professionally in any capacity. I've only done maybe I think. Well, I know I've done finished inking 10 pages. So last summer I did like a short story. I think it was 5 pages or maybe it was 7. I'll double check. I think it was 5. Where I took like the Blade Runner script and did the first opening scene. That's kind of a trial project. And then I had a busy year. I teach at a university, so I have lots of time. But um, but again, I've never really done this before, so I know how long other things take me to do. But this is like a little different. This is a different animal. Like I haven't gotten into coloring any of them yet. I was going to start on the original pages I did earlier this summer, but I really wanted to get into these pages first. Um, Depending on how detailed you are as an artist and experienced, it can take a week to do a double page spread like this all the way through. Whereas someone who's got a lot more experience, they might be able to get it done in a couple days or less. But my background professionally is more kind of general illustration and concept design for games, and that's a different animal. Related, but not quite the same thing. And then figure drawing is like the number one thing I've taught over the years, but not currently what I'm doing. So I know how long those kinds of things take me, or how much time I can spend on them. But in this case, it's a little bit more of a challenge. So definitely wanted to put myself through some pages so I can see how long it takes me. Especially since if I want to say pitch this to somebody, I would say, well, if it's going to take me 2 months to get a 22-page book done, then I need to get a lot of lead time if I want to do a short, or if I want to do like a mini series run that's say 12 issues. Be good to get a certain amount done before it launches. So I don't fall too far behind or at all. Or if I were to kickstart it, then I can say, okay, well, it'll take me this long to get whole production done for an initial set of books, and I kind of need that information. So often I'd like to get this page done, penciled, hopefully tomorrow. If I finish this big panel, I've got a somewhat detailed panel over on the right with the portrait, and then everything else is pretty small on here, so it's just a matter of kind of cleaning it all up. So the answer is I don't know. And of course, I'm probably overdoing a lot of stuff too, again, because I recognize that I don't have the same level of experience that like a professional would have that would do this kind of thing. So once I've done a certain number, yeah, that's a big part of it is the how detailed you are. Like I've been picked up what's it called? Ludo Lullabies book. What's it called? It's called. I have it in the other room. There you go, Ghost Pepper. So like this book right here that I picked up to no, not this one. Oh, this is the first issue, but the artist that does this, he probably works a lot faster. I think he also works digitally. I think maybe not, but I think he does. But it's more cartoony. It's somewhat simpler, more designy, and he's going to work, a lot quicker than this guy right here, Jason Fabic, who does like tons of detail. And that's going to make a big difference. So like in their case with the that one I just showed, the Rook one, they put that one on hold for like 6 months so they could kind of get caught up on the next arc before they released that. So yeah, I can work digitally, but I don't know. There's just something about I think working with. I hate the word traditional media. I usually say analog media, but with pencils and ink. And again, I can work digitally. It's not I've been doing that for a long time, professionally and otherwise. Like these creatures right here. Actually, I did a digital illustration of them on my iPad. It's pretty detailed, and I even built like a special inking set within the program for myself. Um, but there's just something about the real stuff that I like. It's a different kind of experience, and I think it helps to have that. What it is, I need to turn this more forward facing. Not that we can tell exactly what that is. Yeah, but part of it is the story here is this. They sent out this Earth sent out this colony fleet. I mean, maybe my brain is starting to say that maybe it was from different nations, and they kind of sent out this kind of joint group. And they spent like a long time in space. Say hundreds of years, maybe a couple thousand years. Going across space because they're not moving. This isn't Star Trek or Star Wars or something where you can just fly through space really fast. So they went through whole kind of civilizational changes on the ship itself. And so it's like a very different group of people than when they started out. But when they landed, there was again these different ships, and so some of them, a group of them, kind of landed all together, but there were others that crashed on different locations. So this is one of the crashed ships that's out there. And these guys are scavenging for supplies. So the colony's got some problems and they need supplies. And so this is set, I think, around 60 years after the landings. These people are not, first gen, landing types. These are people that have they've been born and raised on the planet. So, that's kind of important to the story as well. Yeah, the initial story I had was set like much later, so they've settled in, they've learned to kind of adapt really well to the planet, and original story I was going to do, which I eventually will go back to because it's a much larger one. But basically, um, so it's this girl takes this father and daughter out on an excursion to some of these alien artifact sites. You're really not supposed to go out to these areas, so this is like a special reserve where you're not supposed to be at all, and it's illegal for them to go out there. It's they have to be careful, and while they're out there, they kind of run into some problems, and it tells them a lot about the nature of the world that they are inhabiting, and so. But then the idea behind that was that it would expand into they go back into the regular colony, and it leads to a whole change in their society. But I'd like to go back to that one. But I thought initially this one's just going to be very simple, where the main character I was showing before, he gets sent out on this trip to check out one of these ships all by himself, and kind of just runs into some problems along the way, and that was all it was going to be. And then as I kind of developed the story, it expanded into what I have now, which I think is I can work into like a 12 issue worth of like 150 pages of content approximately. I've got it kind of all roughly laid out, and I think that's kind of what I can work it out to. Is about 150 pages or so. So like in about 12 issues, whatever that is these days. I think issues are like 22 pages. So now I can tell just a little bit deeper story than I initially had thought about doing. I think would be more interesting. And that's where it gets into the promise he makes to his father from his things they experience here in this earlier parts of this flashback. So, yeah, if you're interested in kind of following along with that, you can subscribe here, obviously on YouTube. And whatever I decide to do will eventually, I guess, happen. I'd like to put together, at least 16 finished story pages. So one is this sequence we were looking at here. Another one would be when he gets his initial mission that's in the future, where he has to leave his homestead behind and venture out to look at another possible crash site. And the colony at that point is a much more difficult situation. They're coming up close on starvation. They're running out of supplies, and they need either people to kind of disappear or bring back something so they can continue to exist on the planet they've settled on. They can't leave. So it's kind of a Hail Mary chance for this guy to go out and recover his reputation that was destroyed as a result of this particular event, this event here, and hopefully save his colony in pursuit of their great mission to expand humanity out to the stars. So well, that's kind of the big stuff going on. Probably would have helped if they hadn't run into these guys on the ship. They are a nasty bit of business. Anyone keeping up with Alien Earth? Well, they can't. They're stuck. So, they can't leave. The planet's not like an Earth planet where there's reserves of like fossil fuels and things in the Earth that they can take advantage of. They're kind of stuck with what they had. And it was a one-way trip anyway. Yeah, so it's probably better off if they went home or never came in the first place, right? But at some point you can't turn back, and you gotta deal with what you got. It's like um, when Cortez the Conquistador, I forget his first name, but when he arrived in South America or Central America, wherever he arrived first, I forget where exactly. He literally burned his boats. So he arrived with his, I think he had 500 men and horses or something like that, and had them burn the boats on arrival. It's going to be a very classic motivational moment in history. So he really did a lot of terrible, terrible things, but by burning his boats, it indicated to the people that were with him that there was no turning back. They could only go forward with their mission. And there was no retreat because there was ocean behind them and land in front of them, and but it's the best advice, and as long as they can take advantage of it. But yeah. So anyway, it's a world full of strange monsters and animals and wildlife, and holds an ancient secret attached to that missing civilization that used to be there. So indicate this guy in the back to some degree, right? I appreciate that. Over there on the Instagram side. Yeah, so they thought they would have certain resources on arrival. They assumed, well, it's like an Earth-like planet, right? When they get there, they'll have fossil fuels. They'll have, all the usual things you might find on an Earth-like planet, but just over here. And turns out it wasn't, as usual, quite that simple. So, um, as usual, right? I think move to a new place, things will work out nice and easy, right? You've anticipated everything. You've got a plan. You know what's there. You've checked it out on Google Earth, right? New town. You know where everything's at, and then you get there. Yeah, nothing is ever as simple as it appears. You kind of have to adapt to your new world, whatever that is for you. So they're dealing with that, except it's far more dangerous. Feels better. Fix up this axe. It's not quite lined up properly. That's right. Or at least get a decent, cardboard box for crying out loud. There's lots of bridges out there. Like, you go out to California, you see all the homeless people hanging out on the intersections of the freeways. But there's the kid back here. It's like, Dad, we got to go. There's no time. He's like, oh no. It's all, getting crazy in here, right? I didn't know they were going to run into these guys on this side. They've made a nest in here. I didn't realize they were breaking into their territory, and these animals are very upset about that. You don't belong here. This is our spaceship now. We don't want you here. And he's like, we just want the supplies you're not eating anyway. And of course, that's an impasse of communication there. Wait, somebody over here real quick. That's my brother. So, um, yeah. So anyway, yeah. But it's the kind of project, where I can sink my teeth in and kind of use a lot of the things that I've been teaching and working with for a long time in a way I think it's more meaningful. But one of the things I've been doing to kind of help me write the story is using story structure, and I've been focusing a lot on the Dan Harmon story circle. And so Dan Harmon's the producer, creator behind like Rick and Morty, among other things. One I've really seen is Rick and Morty, to be honest. But he uses what's called the story circle, and the idea behind it is it's a very handy way. You see, there's a lot of kind of YouTube videos and things out there that kind of explain and show examples of that kind of story structure in shows and film. And the idea behind it is it's very useful, especially if you're doing anything episodic or extended or even short. And it helps you kind of sequence events in your story to show change, which is usually what you want to kind of show in your stories. How the events and choices that are made in a story change a character, because or change something, right? Because that's what we like about our stories, right? It shows people growing and changing and becoming different things. It does not mean it always works out well for them, but by showing that change, it kind of gives meaning to the things that happen. So where's my little triangle at? Are you hiding? The problem with using real tools is as you start to move them around and don't put them back, they can disappear. There you are, triangle. But yeah, the idea with the story circle is you can basically put you can establish what your character's situation is and why things happen to them throughout the story in a way that kind of guides the events. So the elements of the story circle is you start at the top with you, and that's kind of you establish your character, their circumstances, who they are, where they're at, why they are that way. So like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. So they establish early on that he's a middle class kid. His dad gets bullied really easily by this guy. He's got a girlfriend in this high school that he's really into. But he's got these kind of personal social problems. He hangs out with this weird professor guy, or the Doc Brown, and they establish all of that, kind of in the very beginning. So who he is, what his circumstances are, his town, what's his, important things about his town, like the restoring the clock. That kind of stuff establishes the you part. And then as you move into the next part, it shows a need. And so something isn't quite right. So like we were saying before, Marty's dad is easily bullied by Biff. And that puts a lot of shame onto Marty, and he's dealing with Biff's kid at school, and he's got this aspiration for music, and he's not very good at it. So these are kind of some of his needs, where he's got family and honor, and a bad choice in the past has led to the circumstances they're in. Well, if you look at Doc Brown's establishment, he's a crazy doctor who's involved in probably illegal experiments, and all that good stuff. And his thing is he's got this time machine he's working on, and he's tested it out and it works great. But there's one problem, of course, and he made a deal with. I appreciate that over on DLive. I haven't had a donation over there in a long time. I think they killed my reach when I did some figure drawing on there. But so that's the need part, right? So there's some kind of something isn't right, and then there's something that occurs that forces them to act, to make a choice. So in Back to the Future, Marty is forced to use the time machine, the DeLorean, to go back in time when the who was it? The Libyans show up. I think that was who was they've done the nuclear trade with to get the nuclear fuel for the car. That's a lot of donation. But it could just be even just one, just showing it over and over again. But appreciate that. But so that's the go situation. Something happens and he has to cross a threshold. He has to make a choice to go somewhere. And then once you make that choice to go, then you spend time searching for what it is you want. So once he arrives in the past, he's gone, but that leads to all kinds of problems. Like, how did he get in the past? And then he's got this whole thing where he discovers that if his mother falls in love with him and not with his dad, he's going to disappear. And so he has to go through this road of trials, this searching, to make sure that his mom and dad get together in the past, because he's kind of disrupted that process where they would have met because of his traversal into time, right? Homie for real, I guess so. Appreciate the donation. Yeah, so over on DLive, you can kind of donate to creators. They have like their own like crypto, I guess, or something. I haven't really seen that many people pop up over there in a long time, but appreciate coming over. I think they're called like lemons or ice cream and things like that. But yeah, he goes through all kinds of trials, right? So he's in the past. He has to adapt to living in the past. He has to chase his mother off. He's got to try and get his dad to be confident enough to ask his mom out while they don't know who he is. And he's got all these problems he has to deal with. So at a certain point, you take what you're looking for. So in his case, let's see, what did he take? Because taking costs you everything. I think it's where he's taking the chance up on the stage to rock out. He takes a chance with his music and rocks out for the kids at the dance. And in the process of that, he starts to lose everything, and then his Biff, not Biff, I guess this was Biff, shows up. Biff shows up, and his dad punches him, and that secures the mother's his mother's love for his father. She doesn't care about him anymore. She's no longer into him anymore, or whatever, and that situation that could have cost him his life and his future and all that allows him to go home. So he goes home, he returns, and in that return he gets to demonstrate his change. So he gets to show up, and he's got more confidence, he's got more ability, his family situation has changed completely. It's reversed from what it was before. So now his dad is like a successful author, and they're more wealthy, and it's a whole different situation at home. And that's the big change that happens at the end of the movie. Is it changes the whole direction of his life. I appreciate that. I assume that means the drawings are very nice, en français, which sadly I do not speak, but I can guess pretty good. That's an example of a story circle. But what's nice about the story circle too is that it's not just for like the entire story, which is really great because you can set it up so you can know what you can give you all the major beats of your story by laying it out that way. But you can use that same story circle for all the scenes individually, or all the acts of a story. And that's kind of the big advantage behind it. So if something is serialized like a TV show, you can have an overall story circle that's for the entire TV series if you know how it's going to work out from the beginning to the end, or a movie, or a comic. And then each of the issues can follow along with that entire big map, but they can also individually be their own story circle. So you can have a complete narrative while also pursuing a larger one. And, oh, good. If a French person tells you your French is good, it must be, because French are very, very particular people, right? They're very picky about, especially their culture. Um, Not that other people aren't, but it's like with France, right? There's only one country in the world, and that is France. As far as the Parisians are concerned, there's only one city in the world, right? And that is Paris. And that's the only part of France that matters. Oh, that. How much? Let's see if I can figure. Hello from somewhere. How much? Is this Italian? I'm gonna guess how much time for a page. I don't know. We were talking about that earlier. Sadly, I can kind of guess at some Latin language stuff because I did study a little bit of Spanish and Italian, but I don't speak it at all. I do speak Russian or Lithuanian and some pretty bad Cantonese, but beyond that, я не способен помогать вам. Аж не галу юм спадети. Нас аж не kalbu tiek daug kalbų. Onge Gong Guangdunghua Hochoa. Yaokisi Onge Faya Hocho. But wouldn't mind, learning some more languages. But there's only so much time in the day. Pour moi. Okay, there's some more French for you, right? Pour moi. Pour moi. But sometimes I can guess at Latin language when they're putting things down due to the little bit that I know or remember or vaguely have scars from. Or it could be Portuguese, I guess, not Italian. Portuguese. No falo Portuguese. Not speak Portuguese. I once had Brazilian roommates who were learning English, and they didn't speak any English at all. So that was a challenge for sure. They were nice. It was just kind of weird having roommates you couldn't really talk to. I think part of what they were supposed to do was, really talk to me in order to practice, their English. But I'm pretty sure they were pretty exhausted from being in English class all day. Living in, staying in the United States while studying English probably was pretty exhausting, if I had to guess. But I wish I spoke all the languages, but I don't. Yeah, so that's the story circle. I think it's a really helpful way of kind of organizing your thoughts. It doesn't tell you everything you need to know about storytelling, but still, I think a very, very helpful way of thinking through the layout of your story. You don't get lost in the weeds, and it gives you a map of where you want to go. And that way you can stick a landing a bit better. You can see that same layout like in Breaking Bad. And usually, like with a TV show, they'll cover the first few beats in the pilot episode. So that'll be your you need go and some searching usually, all within the first episode. And then most of the TV show is searching. So it's all the things you do to kind of get where you want to go, all the problems and solving all those problems as you go through, up until the very end, and that's usually when you're going to show the return and the change. Possibly the take at the very end. That's if they have a cohesive story they want to tell. It was a little bit different when I was growing up, because we had more episodic shows. So because we didn't have, especially when I was really young, we didn't have ways of watching every single episode unless it came out like on tape, VHS, and so as a result, back then all the episodes were often more self-contained as individual stories. The ongoing narrative is a relatively recent invention. Even with like X-Files, they had like an ongoing story. It it wasn't the focus of most of the show, the alien stuff, the alien conspiracy. Though when they finally did kind of resolve that, it did kind of kill the show, but to a certain degree because that's where a lot of the focus had been, and as a result, there wasn't. Because that was their main story thrust, they didn't really have a lot to work with after that beyond what they originally intended the show to be, which was like a Monster of the Week show. But by the time that show was ending, they started having shows that were more long narrative based because you could get the DVDs and the sets and all of that. So instead of things being strictly episodic, so then we get longer narratives. Yeah, so it's like it's like a season of a show. Not only is it shorter these days, like you're lucky if you get 10 episodes in a season, right? Hello, Louis on Instagram. You're lucky if you get like 10 episodes, right, of a show. Like even like this Alien Earth show, I've been watching that. There's only 8 episodes, and like your average season back in before they started doing these longer form narratives was like 22, 25 episodes. I think there's like seasons of the X-Files where there's like 25 episodes, or the what's it called? Star Trek. Next Generation was like 25-ish episodes every single year, every season. Usually there was like a mid-season break, but they were producing a lot more stories. And now, a lot of the stories that do get produced, they almost just feel like they're like long movies. So like if you look at like I've been watching Alien Earth, like I mentioned before, and really it's just like a long movie. It's not really a TV show per se. It's like a mini series or something. That's what they would have called it back then. Like, I remember when they did like a mini series of Treasure Island on the Disney Channel or something like that. But yeah, well, the thing is, like a lot of the story that they put in like a long season, that would almost the seasons they do now, that would be like one episode of in terms of like the amount of things that happen. That'd be like one episode of X Files or something. They would have. It was rare to have like a two-parter set, right? So when Picard was taken and turned into a Borg, that was like a rare thing to have a cliffhanger on a season like that. You didn't know if a show was coming back or not all the time back then, and so for them to do a cliffhanger, that was a big deal. And we had to wait months until we found out what happened to Jean-Luc and the Borg. So, um, yeah, it's a totally different way of approaching things. I kind of miss it. Actually, it's funny. A lot of like the most popular streaming shows ongoing are shows like Friends and Seinfeld and similar shows that remain popular, and those are all episodic shows. Like, there's not like an ongoing, long-term narrative in Seinfeld or Friends or any of those shows. I mean, there's things that they kind of keep in their continuity, but those still remain like the most popular shows. Which I thought's kind of interesting. And then it takes like years sometimes for a new season to come out of a show too. So you look at Stranger Things, right? They've been doing that show in the '90s, early 2000s, like it would have people would have forgotten about it. Would have been canceled, a long time ago because they just didn't produce anything. Um, and now we're finally getting the final season, and they had to do a big time jump into the 90s because the kids are all old now, and they look old even in the more recent episodes because they've grown up working on that show. And yeah, these episodic ones are nice because you can kind of have favorite episodes, right? You can go back and you can rewatch, the ones that you like the most. So people, oh, this episode of Seinfeld was so funny, and so they can go back and watch that episode. And it's this whole story told in a very short amount of time. And comics were kind of like that too. So most comic stories were, one or two issues was telling a whole story. And when they kind of went into doing everything as a trade paperback, they started doing, 5-issue stories, which I think is, one of the things that's caused them problems, or something that's led to causing them problems in comics, is that kind of mini-series approach to everything. I can't imagine what it's like for an actor, right, who has to produce like 25 episodes of a show in a single year. But I worked on TV sets doing set stuff, like dressing up sets. Nothing too crazy. It's like planting fake gardens and arranging furniture and fake walls, and nothing too extensive, but that kind of stuff on some TV shows when I was in my teen years. And kind of like fake construction almost, but they worked hard on those shows, for these kind of blitz periods, and then they'd go on break for a while. Look, my dog's trying to ask me something, but it's not time. He has to wait. It's not nearly time, boss. You got a long time to go before it's that time. So, um, it's definitely a big change in how culture is presented and experienced. Now, there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to both setups. And actually, I came across one of my a show I really enjoyed in the '90s called Nowhere Man. It's on YouTube. There's several channels that have all the episodes. Um, it was around the same time as X-Files was being popular. It's about a guy who's a photographer. He has this really great photography show, and there's a particular photograph in his show that everybody's interested in. It shows what appears to be like some Americans watching some like Vietnamese or something get hanged. So it's kind of this war uh, image. It only lasted one season though, so there's like 25 episodes on YouTube for Nowhere Man. But this is there. He takes a picture of this. He has this picture in the show of this scene, and then he and his wife go out for dinner afterward, and he leaves to go smoke a cigarette in the bathroom, which they wouldn't put in a movie now. That's like practically pornography or something by showing somebody smoking. Not that I smoke, but you know, but they don't show that very often in shows anymore, which is weird. Like it's something people do, you know, doesn't mean you should, but definitely part of the human experience. But he leaves, goes, smokes his cigarette in the bathroom, comes back, and there's an elderly couple sitting at his table, and his wife is gone. And supposedly, you know, when they came in there, he was friends with the restaurant owner, like they were familiar with each other, but the guy acts like he doesn't know him. He's like, what's going on? And he eventually gets kicked out, and he leaves, and goes home, catches a cab and goes home. And strange man, his wife answers the door, but she doesn't know who he is. And there's another man in the house that she says is her husband. And the whole show is about him trying to figure out what happened and why. I think they come to some kind of resolution at the end of the first season. It kind of leads into another, but it never happens. They never do a second season. But they do kind of resolve, I think, the initial mystery of his photograph, why it was that way, what really happened there. Actually, I think they still do the episodic thing for kids shows. I think that's where they really still do it, right? If you go watch, like, I don't know, Bluey or something like that, you know, you can watch just one episode, or Paw Patrol or whatever, you know, kids are into watching these days. Those are all kind of individually digestible stories. Or you look at a show like Samurai Jack, where, you know, originally it didn't have an ending. It was just kind of, here's your premise of the story, and then there's like all these, you know, adventures he goes on while he's lost in the future. And it wasn't for a long time before they finally did the that final season. I saw this guy do a YouTube review of the Samurai Jack final season. He didn't like it. He like, didn't have this. He didn't like the sad, the bittersweet ending of it. He made some weird comparisons too that I was like, hey, that doesn't make any sense. People comment on his YouTube channel. Like, hey, your comparison. Oh yeah, the smoking thing. Yeah, they don't put. Yeah, they just don't show that very much. Especially tobacco. But but yeah, I was just thinking about the episodic thing, but yeah. So I guess there's that. Whatever I was just talking about. Yeah, I remember Nowhere Man being pretty good, but again, I watched it when I was a teenager, so I think I watched the first episode on YouTube just because I was trying to remember what it was like and about. My dad really didn't like us watching it because he didn't like how everyone was gaslighting this photographer. It's the same actor from the recent Star Trek movies, where the guy played Captain Pike. So the guy was the first captain of the Enterprise. That's the actor in the show. He's got some great '90s hair, some bigger hair, and then flannel and kind of puffy, very loose-fitting jeans was the style at the time. Lower down, just scratch. But forget the actor's name. There's another show on YouTube that's from the same time period. Also only lasted a season that I really liked. I remember that one pretty well. And that was Strange Luck. You can find it on YouTube. It's pretty grainy because it's just the old resolution. I wish there was like a DVD set for it, but or something like that. You can't buy it anywhere, but it is on YouTube. Strange Luck. It's about a guy who he gets orphaned in an airplane crash, like a major airline flight crash. And he's the sole survivor as a baby, and he gets raised. He has like this weird things happen to him all day long, or throughout his life, every single day. So that's why it's called Strange Luck, because he's got this weird luck around him. Improbable things happen that lead into other things around him. And he's a photojournalist, photographer guy. Kind of similar to that one from that other show, to some degree. And goes around dealing with his issues around luck and kind of seeing them as a pattern for how he solves the problems that he runs into. They did do kind of one last-ditch thing to try to make it popular at the end of the series, because it was a Chris Carter show. So Chris Carter was the guy who did X-Files and Millennium, among other shows back then. And so they tried to connect it back to, he found like this tape or something of his dad. He says, I want you to go, or a letter, I don't remember exactly. He said, I want you to go talk to a friend of mine, Fox Mulder. So they were trying to kind of connect it to the X-Files, but then it ended. It was definitely more episodic, but there was kind of an ongoing thing where he was trying to figure out why he is the way he is, and what it means. Why does he have this luck? Why did all this improbable stuff happen to him? So. Alright, I think we can move on to the next panel. Might come back and update this one later, but alright, move over to this guy. There's a close-up of our little friend who's stuck up under those creatures. And I think I shot some photographs of that, though I think I shot myself at the wrong angle, so I might have to download it to it was kind of funny trying to shoot photographs of myself doing this stuff. It's these ones here. Here. I want these. I want to select. I really hate how helpful these programs are. It's a little bit better, but not great. Yeah, trying to catch myself in the timer in my camera was quite the adventure. So that was running back and forth. It upset my dog. He was like, "What are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. It's kind of weird. I don't understand. So I am leaving." Let's go ahead and download this one so I can flip it at the very least. Got my iPad out in front of me. Let's go ahead and crop you down a bit just so I can have to worry about zooming in all the time on you. And then flip. With that button. There we go. Flip. Done. Alright. So it's not perfect, but that's alright. I don't want this guy to look like me anyway. So. There we go. About to say, there's no time for them to get away. No option left. He's going to hit the detonator. Animal's claws on his head. Let's get them a bit bigger. That all being said, I am enjoying Alien Earth. It's not perfect, certainly, but I think it's a good time. Heard some people complaining about the fact that the one of the characters kind of has control or some kind of relationship with the alien, which I don't know, they kind of set up so that it works. I think in the show, contextually anyway. So I don't really have that complaint myself. But I understand it too. But I think it's a bit overblown. Hello, Bosch. Welcome back. Did you bop your tail against the door? My dog wandering back in. Back out. Said it wasn't worth the wait, I guess. Hopefully he's not getting into trouble. There you are, Bosch. How you doing? So, yeah, but I think it's been good so far. I know, Bosch. You just have to wait. My dog gets a piece of frozen BRO CCOLI every night, and usually around 8:30 or so. Unless I'm doing this, and then I don't do this for a little longer. But this big row is pressed right there, and the ash probably come up here somewhere. Why don't you lay down, Bosch? Okay. I know what you want. You're not getting it. The answer you have to wait. I know. Sorry. Just have to wait. Wander off to better check on him. Wondering what he's doing. Just a second. But wanted to check since sometimes a dog starts hovering. They're trying to explain something to you, and if you don't guess right, that could be a problem, right? You look sufficiently concerned, I hope. Everything. Does he look sufficiently concerned for his circumstances? What do you guys think? Do you look adequately? Thing. Should have taken pictures with gloves on. I'm sorry. It was interesting. I was watching Francis Manipul. He's around a long time doing comics. He was got a YouTube channel, and he has a proportional calculator. It's a little circular device that lets you calculate proportions. And it seems like when I'm watching him, like he's doing his comic pages all like different sizes, which I've never seen before. A little strange. Um, like I've never seen like he'll work 11 by 17 or smaller. Um, Weird. I've never ever seen anything quite like that before. Which is um, so he uses it to kind of figure out his page sizes, which he's really good. So don't it's no criticism of his art. But I was like, why would you do that to yourself? Like, why wouldn't you just have like a standard size you work at? Because when you go to ink things, it affects how your line weights work and kinds of details you put in if you work at an inconsistent size. How many times do I practice this? I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Like, like how long have I been drawing or working on this page? Uh, like, I've been working on this page this week mostly. So I've got the big panel I did up here. I got the one on the left that I've been working on. Um, so That's how long I've been working on this particular image, but let's see, what did we have over there? Just to clarify it for myself, so I'm going to choose far field. You. There you are. And usually let me know if there's any questions out there. Just bringing this thing in here. It's supposed to be the other face over here. There we go. Good. Good evening, good evening. Move that nose over. Interest there. And it's down about another half hour. So I can get my dog taken care of. Chore downstairs. Back to the music. Speaking of strange luck. What do we think? Here, the bottom should be a lot easier to be done. I've got most of that tough stuff down there taken care of. So hopefully I move faster with these other panels. Well, have a good night. Thank you for coming in. I'm probably going to shut down in about 20 minutes, maybe a little less, depending how far I'm done with this. So I think this would be a good spot to stop. Spent most of the day touching up the other one over there, or adding to it and touching it up. Something I'm trying to keep in mind as I work on this is that really the point with the penciling is to get in the structure and important details, not to set up just a tracing with inking. I'm not only tracing, but I'm adding in final kind of details or textures and other things, and that I need to leave room for that in the actual inking. So as long as the pencils kind of work, and as long as I'm clear on what I'm going to do, then they're good enough. Establishing a relationship between things, like making sure this creature's face here is further forward, the heavier line. Making sure the focal point is on our little friend here who's about to hit the click on his little device here, which will set off the bombs that they've been planting in the hall. And then everything will go kaboom. All right. Clean that up a little bit. And, I think we're going to call it here. If I'd gotten this far earlier in the day, I might have switched to a different thing, but just to keep myself fresh, going all day. The line can be inserted on here. Hello. 3C7, if that is your name. Press X to out. Yeah, I was about to finish up for tonight, I think. And that'll let me get ready for bed. Get my dog taken care of. He wants his evening green frozen snack he always gets. Okay. Cleans that up a bit. And he's got the bottom row, and they'll finish off this page. So, I think we're going to call it there for tonight. Thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it. And we'll deal with that later.